was a kid. Guys like me were brought up to follow codes.
Antonio Soprano.
You're my nephew. I want to do whatever I can to help you.
The Many Saints of Newark.
You know what? Mafungu. I don't know why I bought it.
Hello and welcome back to Almost Cult Classics, the podcast. My name is Joe Ramoni, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host Ryan Lancello.
KZ each.
Where we're doing something a little bit different for this episode. We're going to be talking about something current. You and I have sometimes overlapping interests, and now that movie theaters and newer movies are coming out, there might be some chances that we want to talk about these newer movies. And, it might not be for everything, but if there's something that we feel like we have a lot to say about, we'll jump in and do it. And we have a lot to say about the Many Saints of Newark.
Oh, yes, we do.
Now, you are a bigger Sopranos fan than me. You kind of convinced me to watch The Sopranos. If you listen to our early podcasts, I was still watching it. It came up a lot, and we would talk about it a little bit. And I've since gone back, and I'm rewatching it, and I'm really focusing on it now. Like back then, I was like cooking dinner, and it would be on the back. Now I'm really into it. And
it rewards multiple viewings.
Oh, absolutely. And now, especially when you know what's coming and that type of thing. So I was a little skeptical of the Many Saints of Newark, but I figured, there's something that they could do there. And yeah, we both watched it recently. We haven't talked about it too much, so let's get into it. You are not a fan.
So I watched it initially, and I was just like, one, I wasn't excited at all. I expected it to be bad. Very low expectations. So I'm putting it on going, my expectations are fucking rock bottom. I'm like, it's going to be pretty. It's not going to be that bad. So I ended the movie, and I was just like, yeah, it's about what I thought. And then, you sit and digest, and you think about it a little more, and I start to realize, I'm like, this was a massive piece of dog shit. It is really, really bad.
It seems to be a lot. Like, it's kind of like now people are starting to jump in and be like, that was terrible.
And I'm so happy this movie, this is going to sound weird, I'm happy this was made. Because now people are starting to be like, no one likes this. Who was this for? Like, think about it this way. One, you made a theater comment. Could you imagine going to theater and seeing this? I could not imagine sitting in a theater watching this. But one, okay, say this had nothing to do with The Sopranos, right? With the movie, you could easily make this movie.
Sure.
Just make it, instead of Junior, it's
another gangster.
Fred.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You could do that movie, no Sopranos things at all. Shitty movie. No one would see it, right? So is it for Sopranos people? Because they're all going to be turned off. Who the fuck is this movie for?
Can I tell you who it's for? It's for millennials who discovered Sopranos in the last 5 years.
I think you're wrong.
Look, I'm one of them.
They were trying to get this movie made when the series ended.
Yeah, but I feel
they
like
wanted a Sopranos movie.
I feel like they would have had different motivations and the story would have been different. Here's an example of something similar that I actually liked, but you'll probably, you'll hate the idea of, was the El Camino, which was the Breaking Bad.
I didn't see it.
But it wasn't. I wouldn't even call that a movie. It felt like an extended TV episode, and it was a nice little epilogue to what happened in Breaking Bad.
Okay,
there were some fun flashbacks.
I'm not against it. It's if you want to do shit, justify it. Like, I'll give you an example. And here's the other thing too. Breaking Bad and Sopranos aren't good examples because their story's wrapped up. They don't need more explanation.
But what I'm saying in this case with El Camino is that felt like, just structure-wise, like more happened in that than really what happens in the Many Saints. Like, nothing really happens.
In
the Many Saints of Newark.
But here, I'll give you an example of something where it was justified. Deadwood. They didn't finish the show. And there was reasons for that. So to come back and make the show did not have an ending, really.
Sure.
So it kind of made sense. And fucking David Milch, in his dementia-riddled brain, still wrote a better fucking follow-up movie than David Chase.
Well, Ryan, the script was written for years, and they were trying to. I'm playing devil's advocate with you, but I'm saying, I think that if there's so many of these type of movies that exist. That Ricky Gervais David Brent movie is a prime example of it, where it's like it's creators that get nostalgic for their creations and then get offered lots of money to, utilize that, develop that nostalgia, and it just gets put into things that aren't. And I didn't hate this movie. There are a lot of really interesting things in it for me that I would have liked. Like Olivia Soprano's performance, what was her name? Vera
Farmiga.
She was great.
Yeah, it's great caricature. It's not a good performance.
I understand. There's also a much darker side of caricature in this movie that you see Silvio Dante.
They're all characters.
See, I thought
I keep hearing people like, well, it was a bad movie, but the acting was good. The acting is not good. The acting is them pretending to be characters that were already established.
Listen, but
hold on a second. None of these characters are fucking lived in. This is the big problem with taking some stupid movie and a show that these actors are living with forever. Every character on The Sopranos feels totally lived in, totally real. You get them. All this is actors in a film. It does not feel like these are. It's Corey Stoll playing Dominic Chianese, basically. It's not him playing Junior. It's fucking bad, dude. Yeah, is her caricature of Olivia Soprano good? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but also
she's a harpy. There's no depth there,
listen,
really.
Also, but they're playing younger versions of these characters, so there is certain nuances and changes that go into these characters. But again,
to stop you there, you're wrong. If they would have played these characters as developing into the people we see on The Sopranos, it would have made sense. Instead, they're ready-made. Silvio's doing all his hand gestures and his faces. All the characters are doing the things they're doing in The Sopranos 40 fucking years later. It's dumb. These characters were just developed then, and then for 40 years. It's stupid, dude. I'm sorry. It's fucking bad. It was like a skit. It was like watching skit performers. Hey, I'm doing The Sopranos. Hey, here's this fat Samoan who's playing Puss. It doesn't look Italian. It was just so dumb. So fucking stupid.
What did you think of Michael Gandolfini?
Awful.
Yeah.
Terrible. He had like a lisp.
Yeah,
so bad.
I get what they were trying to do there, and I think I've seen him in things. He's a good actor, but like, how do you like fill this shit? Even if you have your dad, and it's got to be hard and daunting, but like.
Yeah, wrong choice. They went emotional with the casting. Very dumb.
You know, I'm at the point in rewatching The Sopranos now where I just watched the episode where it flashes back to the events that are reshot in this movie, which is where Tony witnesses his father getting busted
at Playland.
Yeah, and you know, even that, like, and just the look and the way it's presented, and it's done in a way, like you're saying, where the impressions and characters aren't mimicking. Even Uncle Junior, they're not like mimicking. They're doing enough where you can see those threads. And you know, again, for me, I thought that with Livia and with Uncle Junior, I didn't think they were that bad in this. I thought other characters were worse. I actually thought that like the original characters that we've never seen before were actually like worse.
They were awful.
Like
the Black Guy Harold was so uninteresting.
Yeah,
I didn't care about.
They didn't do anything with him.
Anything that he was doing, I didn't care. They have that whole thing towards the end of the movie where he meets up with Frank Lucas, who was the big heroin dealer back in the day. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You're taking a Sopranos movie and you're devoting almost half of your runtime to characters nobody gives a fuck about. And it's like, it's so annoying too, because there is an interesting story there. You have the Newark riots, which David Chase has said this for years. He's talked about how this movie was developed. He totally blew it. Or he compromised on tons of his ideas or whatever, because they don't make it in the movie. But you have the Italians and the blacks in Newark, two groups that are often at each other's heads, whether they work together or not, backdrop of the riots. Very interesting there. A lot of stuff to be explored. The movie drops the ball entirely on that. It's so unrealistic too, man. I'm sorry. These guys, you look at The Sopranos, right? Like the show, they're all racist. And they're all unapologetically racist. In the 90s,
right,
when they knew, hey, don't do that anymore.
And not just about all races. They like that, that weren't Italian. They would,
but especially blacks.
Yeah, right.
So then let's go back to the 60s, where it's like a fucking college campus almost.
Yeah,
it's not real.
Well,
dude, I'm sorry. There's no way any of this shit would be happening. It's not. It's not accurate.
You know what I think is a much better representation of similar conflict is A Bronx Tale. Which, and you can see that, like, the tension is really, really bubbling throughout the movie, and it culminates in like such dark ways. And you know, when the car, all those kids get killed in the car with the Molotov cocktail. Coming back to again, because I'm on my rewatch, like I forgot that these Newark riots were part of those flashbacks. Like, a lot of this stuff we've seen already. We've seen done differently. And I like... The movie, it felt like 3 TV episodes that were jammed together. Because you have, like...
Oh, yeah.
The first,
it was 3 stories jammed together.
First 40 minutes are, like, where Tony Soprano's a little kid. And then it's just kind of like, then the 60s came to an end. And it's like, what? That's how we're going to just dissolve to this now?
By the way, it was such a terrible choice, but it was one funny, really funny line, which is in character, is the idiotic Christopher Moltisanti narration. Well, there's that part where he's like, the 60s ended. Neil Young gave that speech from the moon. Like, Neil Young. Like, that's pretty good. He would think it was Neil Young, but so useless. But yeah,
I didn't know that was going to be a thing either.
But to what you're saying, so there's that. Why they would have given him a ton of money? Make a 6-episode miniseries. It would have been great.
Well, see, I think that's because they just said he signed a new deal with HBO for 5. I think you're going to start to see he's going to do. I think this was like the test program of like what's and. You know, I don't know much about David Chase. I am a very surface-level Sopranos fan. I'm getting more into it. I'm not as passionate about the topic as you are. I obviously love the show, but, you know, you have been watching and rewatching the show far before I ever discovered it. I remember in film school, in one of my classes, they showed us the first episode. And I remember I was like, all right, it's the ducks. I don't quite understand this. And... rewatching it now as an adult and been through some things, and when Tony like talking about how like the ducks represent the family flying, like it's amazing. You start to see this writing, how great it is, and I didn't understand it then, but at that time you had probably already seen every episode and you were really into it.
Here's another big problem with the movie, and like I'm not one of these guys either. It's like the legacy has been tarnished. The show's done. I don't give a shit. This movie don't even exist to me. You know what I mean? Like I don't care. The show's great. But the show is not about the mob. The show's about the dread that we carry around due to the lies we tell ourselves and how the prison walls close in as we put the bricks up. We do it to ourselves. We create the hell we live in. That's The Sopranos. This movie is some dumb fucking generic mob bullshit that barely shows the Newark riots. And if they do, it's a minor plot point.
Right.
It's just a dumb mob story about some douchebag Dickie and his stupid, what was her name, Graziella or whatever? Just terrible. Just, I'm telling you, if this wasn't Sopranos and you were in a theater watching this, you'd be like, dude, this is fucking bad. Like, this is boring, and who gives a shit? I don't care.
I wasn't annoyed by it. I was mostly bored. There were a few can I talk about the things I liked?
Yeah, go ahead.
I liked...
the end credits? Which actually I had a problem with.
That then it cuts right back to a movie.
I had a huge issue with, but go ahead.
I like Joey Diaz as Pussy's father.
Yeah. Oh, is that who he was supposed to be?
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah, Buddha. Pussy's father.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not the biggest Joey Diaz
I know.
fan.
Look.
He's all right.
I actually liked Corey Stoll as Junior Soprano. I thought that was a fun performance. I know it's a very, very caricature-y.
Fun performance. Like, what did he do, though? I just watched it again. What did he actually do in the movie? What's so fun? His hat? His not time-appropriate glasses?
Look.
The glasses Junior wears in the show are not what they were wearing in fucking 1965.
Yes, that's a good point.
It's a very good point.
Even in the flashback they show in the first season, the character playing him, he's wearing like tortoiseshell glasses.
Yes,
yeah.
It's so fucking stupid, dude. He's not. It's not a good performance. People have to stop kidding themselves here.
I'm not kidding. I didn't say here's what's great about the movie. I'm saying here's what I enjoyed.
He looked kind of.
I'm saying here's what I enjoyed.
Corey Stoll always has a good presence, but it was stupid.
I liked the first Ray Liotta character. I thought the brother was dumb. I thought it served no purpose.
Really needlessly confusing thing to do to the audience.
Yeah.
So dumb.
Well, I don't know if with you, but I mean, I had seen the trailer. So I had seen Ray Liotta in prison.
Everyone did.
So
Everyone was confused by it.
The moment that, one of the only like really exciting moments of the movie when Dickie kills his father, in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, well, he's not dead because we see him in that trailer shot later. And then, like, when he burns his body, I'm like, oh, so I guess that's a flashback. So when the reveal is finally, it's his twin brother, it's so stupid. It's so...
It's so dumb. And not only that, from the second he kills him till the second he burns his body, which is a fairly long stretch.
Right.
10 minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes. Everyone's seen the trailer.
Right.
So you know he's talking to Ray Liotta in jail. that whole sequence, I'm out of the movie because I'm
Right, I
doing
am
what you
too.
were doing. Wait a second.
Yeah.
He's burning
And
him.
it's a really good scene.
He's
like,
dead.
It's an exciting scene. I know you
It's
don't
all
think
right.
anything is good.
No, it's okay.
In
Whatever.
the context of the movie,
Yeah, it's fine. But they fucked up. Mm-hmm. And they primed the audience to think one thing. And they're like, hey, we're going to pull a little switcheroo. Why?
Yeah.
You're just needlessly fucking with your audience. It's not fun. It's not surprising. That second character brought nothing to the table beyond some minor Buddhism.
minor exposition, and
It's fucking hack.
so this movie retcons a lot of stuff too.
The timeline is so jacked up. It's so bad.
But let me ask you this. So as far as I remember, Tony essentially gifts Christopher the cop who allegedly killed his father. So is that Tony's way of? Is that supposed to be to take that as Tony was lying to him?
When I watched the show, it struck me as bullshit.
Okay.
I think Tony was
I don't
just
mean in
lying
the
to him.
context with this movie.
Oh,
I mean,
no. Yeah, I
okay.
think Tony was just bullshitting him. I think they wanted that cop dead for something, didn't they?
Yeah, I think they're again because Tony's really good at that. Like,
But see, here's the other thing too. This is the great thing about the show, is that the loose ends didn't need to be tied up.
Sure.
You don't find that's like life.
Yeah.
You don't always get the answer. This fucking movie, man, it holds your hand. Like, it's so dumb. And the questions it answers did not need to be answered. There was no need for it. Really stupid shit.
yeah, and the other thing too is that, and I know other people brought this up. So is Tony supposed to be younger than Silvio and Paulie? Like, I always assume they were.
Paulie, yes.
Okay, I know Paulie, but
Dude,
like
you look at this movie, Paulie and Silvio seem like they're the same age. They're not.
Yeah, I know. Paulie's a little bit older.
Paulie's way older.
Yeah,
Way older.
and I always thought that like Sil and Tony came up with Jackie Aprile. Like, I always thought they were like, you know,
you were right.
yeah. And this movie kind of because like Tony's still like a kid, and Silvio's being depicted as the same actor that plays in the whole movie.
Tony is a child. Not even a teenager. He's
Yeah.
a child. And Silvio's making moves. He's
Yeah.
like, this is it's so dumb.
By the way, and this is another thing. Are we supposed to just assume that Silvio has a wig? Did that need an explanation?
Apparently it did.
It never comes up in the show, right?
Never.
It's never alluded to.
Nope.
I mean, the audience, we know it's a wig, obviously, because we know Steven Vincent doesn't have hair like that.
Yeah.
But watching this movie, it's like that. Now you're explaining the character choice. Like, you're not even explaining you're explaining a wardrobe. Like, it's not
Needless.
Yeah.
For what, a laugh? Like, why are we going for... This movie was going for a lot of gags. Like, oh, look, there he is with the... Like, why? Oh, there's Paulie painting his nails at dinner. Why? Like,
I didn't
why?
catch that.
And I got to jump back to... Dude, this Junior was the worst. He was a fucking fan service line delivery machine. That's all that character was. Oh, your sister's cunt. Blah, 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 blah. Can I tell you one thing? It was about an hour in. I almost turned the movie off because I'm like, don't do it.
I'm surprised we didn't get to learn why he's fond of cunnilingus. I'm surprised that wasn't like. But to that record, like, that's what I mean. Like, they took all the fun. I'm not going to come back on what I said. I do think it's an enjoyable performance. I understand that it's distracting and not needed and over the top. I understand that. I liked it.
But when they're at the table, it's like the dinner table or something, and they're talking about Tony playing football, and I'm like, don't do it. Don't fucking say it. Cuts to Junior. He doesn't have the makings of a varsity athlete. I seriously almost turned the fucking movie off there. I'm like, this movie's a joke.
You had the same reaction of Tony looking at a box of Uncle Ben rice. He just fell on the
My
floor.
girlfriend did find me passed out on the floor among prosciutto and other salted cured meats.
You know, I hate the whole gabagool thing too. I hate that that's become like.
I've heard like the Italians, like in Italy, do not say that.
They don't.
It's a total Americanized Italian
I
thing.
always grew up saying capicola.
We never say gabagool.
Yeah.
I say it now.
Yeah, because the show. I don't even think Tony really like gabagool. I don't know.
You have to understand, like, once again, this was the great thing about the show, is that they're subtly shitting on American Italians. Because Italians do not act this way.
Oh, yeah.
Somewhat.
No, I mean, I'm sure there's
The
it
hands and the
exists,
legs. Yeah, that's all
but like
there.
that,
but
this like the way that like crime is a casual part of the daily lives of these people.
Well-
to the extent of like, there's some scenes in The Sopranos where it's like, even if
But that was a subtle thing. The Sopranos was about so much more than the mob. The mob was like the last thing it was about almost. It was about this American identity and how we form into it The movie is some
family
dumb
tension and things like that
gangster
too.
shit.
Yeah. It feels like it would have been the plot of like a Sopranos video game, which I know exists, but like, you know what I mean? Where it's like,
The plot in that is probably better.
let's just get some fan service and you know, and yeah, I can't look. I can't speak the same expertise you can on it because you're a much bigger fan than I am. So I can tell you're much more passionate about.
I mean, it's just an act. I'm doing it for the show too.
I know that, but I know deep down too you were angered by this movie. And you
I
didn't
wasn't
enjoy it.
angered. I was just like, it did exactly what I thought it would do, which was suck.
Yeah.
It just was so bad. It was so. The Sopranos was on the nose when it needed to be. Otherwise, it would elude. It was very sleight of hand almost. Like this movie was so fucking on the nose. Like there's that one part where Dickie's driving through Newark and the National Guard comes in with the tank. He has a dead body next to him.
They're just like, come on.
They
through.
look in the car and they wave him through, and then some terrible dubbed in line to go, "He's white." We put it together that they let him through because he's white. We didn't need the line going,
That line to tell you.
he's white. Yeah, thank you. Well, how about the dead body in the fucking passenger seat?
The film also is just like visually, it's like murky. It doesn't look appealing. It doesn't like everything looks kind of green and like
Shot on film. This, I don't know, shot on a fucking iPhone 10. I have no clue. This blue filter, whoever invented this, hopefully they're dead. And
I don't think it's a filter. I think it's just
color grading.
yeah. I think it's color grading.
It's horrendous. Do I blame Netflix for this? Who do I blame?
Alan Taylor.
He's not a very good director.
Can I ask you something else too? Because you know a lot more about The Sopranos.
All right, okay, we get it.
Just singing your praises on The Sopranos.
Yeah, I know. That's another thing. Dickie Moltisanti does the worst. This shitty actor does the worst. His are like, it's terrible.
He needs to watch Ford Fairlane.
Whatever.
The you know the scene where Tony and friends steal the ice cream truck? Is that something that's like alluded to in the series? Do
No.
they talk about that? Okay.
Why did that happen?
But see,
In
the
this
only-
film.
the only reason I thought it happened was because there would be like a throwaway line of dialogue in one scene where Tony would be like, "Me and Jackie, one time we took an ice cream truck and gave free." Like, you know, that's the only reason it felt like it should be in this movie.
I don't recall it. Fucking stupid though, right? What a dumb sequence.
It's
What a dumb sequence. It's just so stupid. Oh, my God. And all like the fucking dumb references like, hey, look, they're at Holstein's. Like, okay, cool. There's one part in the movie, I think it's after when John, the father, comes back from jail, played by John Bernthal, who I thought I liked before this movie. The guy's got one fucking speed as an actor. He's got one speed. It's bad. Pretend to be angry Italian. That's it. I'm tired of non-Italians. Actually, I don't care at all, but I'll pretend I do. Can we get some Italian representation in these Italian stories? God forbid.
Chris Pratt as
Chris
Mario.
Pratt as I was going to say as like Genovese.
Oh yeah.
Hi, I'm a Salvatore Genovese. Fucking God. Oh, it's so annoying. But yeah,
and
John
then-
Bernthal's terrible in this movie. He's so bad. He's just a total ugh.
Well,
but
the guy in the flashback, I don't even know who played,
I forget his name.
but he was great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
John Bernthal's awful.
And just looked like an everyman, like looked like that type of neighborhood guy.
Tell you what, John Bernthal did have the one semi-realistic scene when he's driving through, and they're like, "Oh, look!" Like coming home after jail, and they're like, "Oh, look, there's the fig tree." And Junior's like, "Oh, things never change." Then he sees the blacks moving in. He's hitting the door. Yeah, he would be angry about that.
Yeah, it really upset him.
And then he ruins the party.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is interesting here. Like, this is the family dynamic. Okay, you got, and then they blow it.
Wait, you didn't like that little Christopher the baby is able to he doesn't like Tony because
Whose kid is that?
That's because he says at one point my wife can't have children.
Right. Maybe she did. Or was it the Gumar?
I assumed the movie was going to get to that point where the wife's out of the picture and it becomes the Gumar, but no,
They never explain it.
they never explain it.
Which it can't be her. Everyone would have known she was pregnant. And then the wife's just going
And
to
the
go,
wife wouldn't
"Oh,
be
I'll
okay
just
with that,
I'll
yeah.
just take the kid, say it's mine." When I wasn't pregnant at all. This movie, I swear to God, if it didn't say written by David Chase, I would think a 29-year-old who just fucking watched a couple clips on YouTube of The Sopranos was like, "Okay, I get it," because it has like that the vagaries and the things that weren't answered in the show. I guess maybe they tried to do that here, but it's just confusing. There's no mystery there. It's just like, where did the kid come from? So fucking stupid.
When a man loves a woman.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a good point. And the other thing too that was confusing for me was how did the Gumar, and what was the character's name? I don't even remember.
I think it was Graziella or something.
Like her and Harold trade glances occasionally.
That's it. That was the.
But how did they get to a point where they're romantically involved? Like, that's another thing. I know there's a difference between you don't need to be told, and they should be at least showing more hints. And
it almost seemed like she was doing it to hurt Dickie, but then she wasn't.
No,
really.
she later claimed she was just bored, or I don't know, but just needed love or something.
Yeah, whatever. It's so fucking. But it's funny. So it was after that party. They're all sitting around the TV, like watching something, and it's an old black and white movie. And I'm looking at it, I'm like,
It's a gangster movie.
it's Key Largo with fucking Bogey and Edward G. Robinson. And I was like, I'm watching, and I'm like, I should turn this off and watch Key Largo again.
You're more into what they're watching on
Key
TV.
Largo's, dude, I recommend everyone go watch Key Largo. That's a phenomenal movie. But yeah, it's a million times better than this lump of shit. Not a Bogart fan?
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about him that just...
You'd like Key Largo. He's a real...
yeah, I'll check it out.
He's miserable in the sense that he's totally given up.
I'm a big Raymond Chandler fan. And I don't think he's... I think his Philip Marlowe, I don't know. There's something about it that... I don't like the I should rewatch it, The Long Goodbye. I don't like Elliot Gould's...
Dude, I've watched that movie probably 3 times. I'm like, it's good. People rave about it. I'm like, it's all right.
Got to read the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the whole thing with when you're dealing with this type of project, you gotta find a balance between fan service, nostalgia, and just telling a worthy story. And I think that all gets really muddled here. And like you're saying, to me, it felt like it would have been fun as like a 15-minute flashback for something, and it was too much. Like when Carmela shows up at the end, like stuff like that, where it's like
dumb. It's literally for them to go get away, calm.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, there she is. There's
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Is that
pointing.
Han Solo in the Millennium Falcon? There he is. Fucking bullshit. Also, I have to bring this up because I just watched it, and I almost thought I dreamed this up. There is a bizarre sequence in this film. I can already tell you might remember it. It's when he's at prison talking to fucking dickhead, Ray Liotta, whatever. And he's saying, he's talking about how he's coaching a beep baseball team for blind kids. Do you remember this part?
I remember the line of dialogue, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to pause this right here, show Joe this very quick scene, and then we're going to come back with Joe's reaction.
And we'll be right back. I don't remember that.
Dude, I want to... People, if you're listening to this, you've probably watched the movie. No one's going to remember this. I want everyone to really think, what the fuck is this beep baseball sequence for the blind children? Where they're... All of a sudden, everyone's... Is this a fantasy? What the fuck? Why was this in the movie?
As far...
You're not going to answer me.
No, I think it was like how he wants to envision himself. There was something to do with that. Like they wanted to show that he thought he was literally a saint, I guess, because they even say that you're such a saint is the words that the woman says to him because he's coaching a blind baseball team.
Okay, but also, dude, it's like you pulled it out of a hat. Like,
is the point? Listen,
what?
Is the point of the movie supposed to be? It's Christopher telling the story of how he imagines his father. Like you have to pull that back and examine that. Like,
no. I'd say you're right, but clearly the creators did not do that. Like, here's the other thing. I'll say this to you. A lot of times people go looking for subtext and things that isn't there. Like someone like Kubrick was probably laying in a lot of subtext, right? You read a novel, there's tons of subtext in there. A lot of times I used to see this with when it was just the original trilogy of Star Wars. Mm-hmm. Everyone would read into things way too much because that's all you had, and it made sense, kind of.
Expanded universe.
Right. You're reading into shit. It ain't there, bro. I'm telling you, man. It ain't there. They really fucking screwed the pooch on this.
I would agree with you if it wasn't for the fact that there's Christopher's voiceover.
Terrible decision, which I thought initially was kind of cool because remember that tracking shot through the graveyard, and you hear all the voices are talking. I'm like, okay, that's kind of an interesting conceit. And then Christopher talks 3 times during the movie.
Yeah, it's not used enough where it comes across like this is what we're trying to do is tell his father's story from his perspective.
Now that would have been
Of
very,
course.
very interesting.
Yeah.
But
It's only done to like
your theory goes out the window because it's like, oh, I didn't realize Christopher was also following around these black characters around Newark.
well that too, and then when it's like it becomes just a chance to like cut periods of time, just to throw in a narration where he's like, and the '60s came to an end, and it's just I'm speechless about some of it now. I'm thinking about it.
Dude, I'm telling you, the more you think about it, the worse it gets. When it was over, I was just like, it wasn't that bad. And then I went directly to sleep. I woke up the next morning and went about my business, like thinking. And I'm
You weren't livid at the fact that theme song starts to kick in.
So at the end of the movie where Dickie's dead, he has some ignoble death. I don't know. Junior put the hit out on him, which they're retconning that character he killed Dickie Moltisanti. It's like, okay, fine. Like, I don't even give a shit.
They should have had him pop up and go, Kasana Manenga.
Yeah, right.
Fire the gun.
with missing his teeth for some reason in 1970 or whatever. But when he puts the pinky up and Tony takes the pinky and that fucking theme song comes in, that pissed me off. I thought that was...
That's a little fan servicey.
You talk about fan servicey. That was fucking horrid. And not only that, the show was never explicit about the supernatural. It was always lingering on the edges, but it was never explicit about it. This movie is explicit. Like, ghosts are talking. It would have been a good contrast between the sacred and the profane. Nothing.
No, what is that?
Little Carmine.
I'm
okay,
not.
Yeah. Little Carmine's an idiot. He has a lot of good, stupid.
You know what I realized too?
malaprops.
This has nothing to do with the Many Saints of Newark, but in my Sopranos rewatch, Vito shows up as another character.
Yeah.
As fat guy in a bakery. He's Gino.
Yeah.
And it stuck out to me because he was huge.
Enormous.
Like,
he has to waddle out of the store.
Is that he had to fuck his feet up because he's just so heavy, right?
More than likely, yeah. Your joints, everything gets fucked up when that
Can I
happens.
tell you another aside?
Oh, please.
I could have messed it up, but I tried making Johnny cakes. and
Did you really?
They were not good.
They're not pancakes.
It's essentially pancakes made with cornmeal.
Okay. You fucked it up?
There's a guy on the internet who many of our viewers or listeners probably also watches, Binging with Babish. He makes food from TV shows and movies.
Oh, okay. That's
and
cool.
he did the whole thing. He made his own sausage, and he made Johnny cakes. And his difference was he fried them and cooked them in bacon fat, which I get. But like even so, the texture was just I don't know.
Not good.
Yeah. I would think a man like Vito prides himself on enjoying a good meal, and
naturally.
Yeah, that was something. There's a lot, like you're saying, it's one of these shows that you can watch multiple times and pick up on these things. And that was one where I was like, oh, because he doesn't show up as Vito until like season 5 or 4.
4 or 5, yeah. You don't see that character or that actor again for a while.
No, and then they come back and he's dropped a lot of weight. Like I know there's like, but I love that. I know people like think like the whole in the what's the name of the movie they're making in the series?
Oh my god,
with Baldwin.
I know.
Cleaver.
Cleaver. Jesus, I wanted to say scepter. I'm like, yeah, it's a scimitar.
Like I know people like thought like that stuff was a little silly. So I'm curious to see when I get to that part how I feel about it. But right now, I mean, I'm glued to it, and I just love the things I missed that I'm only now seeing because I've seen the series before.
There was something on my last rewatch where I was just like, I can't remember what it was, but I was just like, how did I miss that?
Yeah,
and it made everything, the experience, fuller. Whereas you watch this fucking movie and it's empty. It ends and that's it. Like there's nothing to be gleaned from it.
If anything, it made me jump back into the series.
Good, great. I just don't like what there was. This thing did not justify its existence, in my opinion. That's where I'll come down on it. There's no reason for this to exist.
Does any prequel?
I mean, Godfather 2 is kind of a prequel in a lot of ways.
I'll give you that one.
Look, there's ways to do it. It could have been an interesting story. He had all the elements.
I just wish we had seen a story in this universe that didn't involve so many of the characters that are part of The Sopranos. I think there's like a compelling. I think even Dickie Moltisanti could have been a compelling character because we know so little about him, and they wasted opportunity.
You know almost nothing about him after the movie either.
That's true. It's that's it. That happened. Nope. A policeman didn't kill him. Like I guess that's
not only that. In the show, he's described as like a fucking drug addict
Oh, yeah.
and a drunk. And at the very most, they find the pills he bought for Livia in his like jacket after he dies. Like, oh, Dickie was taking those.
That's another weird.
Fucking dumb,
Like,
man.
again, we haven't seen the relationship, so I know nothing about it. The idea that like young Tony would go to his uncle to try to get talk his mother to taking prescription antidepressants, like
Dumb. And then at the end of the movie too, he starts to hate his uncle. Why? Because he won't buy him beer.
yeah,
That was the whole thing. He wouldn't buy him beer. And this was supposed to be Tony's great mentor that like brought him into the world and so. I don't know. He seemed to be a nice uncle. He didn't really do anything. He was a nice guy to his nephew. Otherwise, he was a total fucking piece of shit.
yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know.
And then people were saying like, "Oh, this movie shows how like the Moltisanti line's cursed or whatever." I'm like, whatever, dude. You know this show exists.
Hey, we said
right?
it earlier. The title is clever.
I didn't realize till like a week ago that Moltisanti means many saints.
I'll give them that.
It's not bad.
But yeah, I mean, and you know the weird thing too, when I was really deep in The Sopranos, I did a video on James Gandolfini, and since that video, I have watched a lot more of his movies, and
Watch The Man Who Wasn't There.
I've seen that one. And
How good is he in that?
He's great.
I feel like no one. That's like the Coen Brother movie that no one
I
watches.
wish I could redo that video because I've seen 8mm, which he's
he's
phenomenal in, and there was the
Well, there's Killing Them Softly.
Killing
which
Them Softly.
I loved. I feel like I'm one of the only people that loves that movie.
What is the one I'm thinking of though? And I just watched it, and it was really good. Oh, The Last Castle, and he was
that's
so good in
right.
it.
He was in
as
that.
like this, fake war general who didn't see any action, but like, and just had contempt for real soldiers. Like,
You ever see In the Loop?
yeah, I mean that's
It's really
a similar
fun.
thing,
He's
a
really-
funny
yeah.
performance, and there's so many. And I always told you it was the whole Kevin Finnerty character that really made me realize, oh fuck, he's a great actor.
Yeah, he's very
because
good.
you're like, oh, that's him. That's more like what he is. And you watch interviews with him, and you're like, holy shit. Like you just always assumed because I think for me my introduction to him was always Get Shorty, which he plays like just a kind of tough guy. And then into The Sopranos, and there's other things, True Romance. Those tough characters. When you like look beyond that and see the more like, I don't want to say like weak, but just more like everyday guys, you realize how incredible he was as an actor, and especially now rewatching this, and to see like where he was in his career when The Sopranos started, like he wasn't really that
No.
big, and so it's
He was a character actor.
and like what a
David Chase. Here, let me. David Chase wanted to fucking cast Steven Van Zandt as Tony. I'm almost certain.
Wow.
David Chase is another thing. I was shitting on this when we were talking about Forrest Gump previously. These boomers, man. David Chase is one of them. He's so obsessed with the era he grew up in and the music. After Sopranos, he made some fucking movie that nobody watched. Don't Fade Away, which is kind of about that, like the music of that era, man, and like, shut up. I'm just so tired of the boomers and like, but the era they romanticize it to this level that we do not care, dude.
not anymore.
Yeah, no. Not only that, it's been exposed as just a dumb and shitty.
Well,
Plus, all the bands of that era were all CIA psyops, but we can get into that on
right.
another show.
our conspiracy.
Read Inside the Laurel Canyon. I'm right. Or Weird Scenes in the Canyon. That's what the book was called.
I don't think there's much more we could say about this movie. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say, if you're a diehard Sopranos fan, and maybe for me, I appreciate The Sopranos more knowing how it could have been by watching this movie. And I don't even mean like just because it was not good. I just mean like I appreciate just the casting choices in The Sopranos. Like it will make you appreciate The Sopranos more just by contrast.
I would agree. It's what I said at the beginning of this. I'm glad it was made because you can see how bad The Sopranos could have been if it was just, we're going to follow this family and the mob. Because that's what this fucking movie is. Because the show ain't that at all. The show is so much deeper and richer and about so much more than just, I'm going to run numbers in Newark. Like, who cares, dude? Here's another thing. I don't want to see a mob movie ever again. I don't want to see a World War II movie ever again. I don't want to see a Holocaust movie ever again. I don't want to see these fucking movies anymore, dude. It's over. There's nothing left to be said about these three fucking things.
unless
Period.
they combine them all.
Oh my God! This summer. Hold on a second.
It's a mob World War II Holocaust movie.
This summer, an Italian Jew from Brooklyn takes on the Nazis in Europe.
Oh, shit, that kind of sounds like Life is Beautiful.
Oh my God, it kind of does.
Yeah. I think that The Sopranos is a masterclass, and check it out. If you've been like sitting on it and don't want to check it out, you have to give it.
But the show?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
You have to get, because I didn't until like last year. So you have to really give it your attention. I wasn't in the beginning, and then it wrote me in as it went on. But right now, I'm starting from just like, I'm in. I'm glued.
And it's a really funny show.
It's funny.
This movie is not even close to funny at all. They got one laugh out of me.
I was telling Ryan, the one thing I didn't appreciate in The Sopranos during my first rewatch or my first watch was Livia. And now that I'm watching it, like, she's so funny, and Tony's relationship with her is so funny, and the two of them, such great actors.
It's funny, and then it's also at the same time it's uncomfortable.
Yeah,
because you're laughing at something you go, you know it.
Yeah.
You've been there. You've dealt with this difficult person in your life, and you go, man, it fucking sucks. And generally, it's someone you love unconditionally. You know what I mean?
Sure.
God damn, that show is good. It gets better.
Have you ever seen Lillyhammer?
Funny enough, I think I saw the first season. I thought it was hilarious.
You know what's
really
weird?
Funny.
I remember like when Netflix streaming had nothing, and that was their
that was
only
their
original.
big thing. Yeah.
And it's like, from what I remember, I've only seen it like one episode. You're supposed to be like, all right, it's a spinoff, but not really. It's like that wink, wink, like.
Kind of, yeah.
Because I know Paulie shows up as a different character at one point.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
I didn't get that far.
He plays like an undercover, not undercover, but like, someone hiding out in it. I forget. But
Well, it's funny. He goes to Lillyhammer, Norway, and shout out to my good friend Arne Moren. He's Norwegian, or his family is. He's American, but we always had like the Norway-Italy. We would make fun of each other, and then when that came out, me and him loved it because it was this dumb guinea in fucking Lillyhammer hunting wolves with stupid, Norwegians. It was we found it so funny show.
And that's what's like weird too, is like it was Norwegian in its origin, right? Like, then Netflix picked it up.
Yeah, they just bought it
because they like that was where they were at that point.
Oh,
the only original they could have was a Norwegian sitcom they bought.
Kick myself about eight or so years ago. I'm on my lunch break from work, and I go grab some food. I'm driving back, and I got stupid NPR on or something, and they're talking about how Netflix is just, whoa, the stock is cratering, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I was working a minimum wage bookstore job at the time, and I'm like, I have no money. I'm like, I got to buy stock. I have no money. And sure enough, the fucking stock's through the roof now, but you could have been Lieutenant Dan to my Forrest Gump, or vice versa.
Yeah. Wait, wouldn't I?
Yeah,
no, I guess that would've made sense.
Dan bought the stocks. You would have been Gump.
Yeah. Well, I think
made of titanium first, just like the spaceship.
I think that maybe we should check out Lillyhammer then. Yeah, I don't know. I hope that this was coherent enough. We obviously haven't done this before because it's not something we're going to sit and take notes and really try it. Like, it was just very off the cuff. We both saw it and had a lot to say. We were like, let's record it and see how it goes.
Being Sopranos fans, we could talk about it. Like I said, like your normal movie of the week that gets released, I don't want to see. I don't want to talk about.
No, but
if
there
there's
might be one.
if there's something for sure.
Of course,
like there's something coming up I actually want to see. Joel Cohen is doing Macbeth with Denzel.
Me and Ryan don't align on certain things we want to see, and that's one that I am not going to see.
I'm going to say it
of
for
course,
sure.
You should. I think it's.
I actually will probably go to the movies. I've been to the movies. Last movie I saw, Joker. You saw Pig, right?
I saw Pig, and Pig was. If you would have saw Pig, I would have talked about it. Like I don't know. You should check that out. You might
something
enjoy
like that. I would talk about.
Yeah,
I don't know what's out there.
There we go. Ryan hit on a good point, though. We can end on. We are on Patreon, patreon.com/almostcultclassics, where we do a lot of bonus content, bonus discussions. Every one of our main episodes of the Almost Cult Classics podcast, we do a little follow-up there. We usually go about 40 minutes to an hour just talking about things we didn't get to. It's exclusive for Patreon. And we do a lot of other bonus content, including polls and opinion pieces that really help us decide where to go next with the podcast. So
we're going to start doing more one-off episodes like this, too.
Absolutely. So if you enjoyed this, let us know. If you thought either of us were wrong, let us know that, too. We'd love to hear your feedback.
At Joe Ramone, at Ryan Lancello on Twitter. If you would like to shit-talk us, I'd be happy to see that.
You hear that, David Chase? I know you're listening.
Yeah. Oh, should we tag him? It won't matter. He's getting it from all angles right now. Who knows? He'll never. Dude, everyone's shitting on him. He's probably miserable right now, counting his money.
On that note, we will see you next time.
Arrivederci.